to see you. Can I invite you guys, if you're comfortable, to come sit up in the front?
Mm, 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 mm,
On Tisha B'Av, one of the customs is to not offer each other greetings, to walk into the space in silence and to walk out of the space in silence. It's a difficult custom for Jews. And so I'm not officially greeting particularly our guests, let it be known. But I do want to say that it's a powerful and beautiful thing that 7 congregations from across our county are represented here. That we have amongst us, I believe, close to, if not a dozen, of the clergy of Orange County, cantors and rabbis, teachers, all gathered together, that there are people here for whom this is an annual and much beloved ritual. There are people here who are stepping into an unfamiliar space. For all of you, not welcome exactly, but I'm glad that you're here. I've been saying to our congregation here at CBI a lot lately that difficult times, I'll let whoever needs to pick up a message from Hashem, that difficult times give us 2 choices. It gives us the choice of either turning on each other or turning toward each other. That in difficult times, we can either turn on our neighbor, to see people with differences as enemies, to entrench ourselves more and more and more deeply into our own preconceived notions, to silo ourselves off from the world, or difficult times can push us to look into each other's eyes, into each other's souls, into each other's hearts, and to choose unity, to choose community, to choose the healing and uplifting power of togetherness. Doing Tisha B'Av this year feels in some ways redundant, and in other ways so profoundly necessary. In some ways redundant because we have been living in the darkness now for more than 10 months. Impossible and real. And necessary because we know better than we did last Tisha B'Av about what that darkness feels like, about the necessity of coming together to cry out, and about the comfort it brings to be in the presence of our Jewish family. And so we gather together tonight to lament the tragedies of the past, to weep for the ongoing tragedies of the present, and to affirm over and over again from a place of defiant grace the necessity of community, of hope, and of remaining open to transcendent possibility that the darkness will recede and that light is our eventual future. For those who are less familiar with the rituals of Tisha B'Av, one of the rituals is to sit on the floor as mourners. For those who were here a little early, I invited you. For those who came in a little bit later, if you were physically able, particularly to our CBI members, to our guests, you should be comfortable. But spiritual growth happens in uncomfortable spaces. And so I invite you, if your body will allow, to come and join us on the floor, to come and be here in the front, to be with us in a physical posture of mourning. We'll have a brief Mariv service, and then the chanting of Echa, Lamentations. Echa will be chanted from people's seats, and the microphone will be passed around, and you'll hear the voices coming from different parts of the room. And then at the conclusion of the service, we'll have a presentation from Yerushalayim, from Professor Dalia Marks, who will be sharing words about contemporary responses, contemporary liturgy, developed after 10/7. Thank you all for being part of this unified community. Before we turn to Mariv, this is a good opportunity to check and to silence your devices. I'm going to check mine so that we can really be present together in the space. We'll start Mariv. If you have the large Siddur, we're on page 18.
והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית והרבה להשיב אפו ולא יאר כל חמתו אדוני יושיע המלך יעננו ביום קוראנו ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בדברו מרבים בדרך קשרים ובתבונם מסננים זמנים. אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרביב. אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורת מצוות חוקים ומשפטים. כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. פוגשים כבוד נלתו. ואהבת את אדוני לך בכל Vayam Shemo Tishmo Mitzvotah Asher Nochi Mitzvachat. Tanti Mitarz. Aretz Hatavar Sharet. I love Aretz. Vayam Adonai Moshe Lemor Adonai Elohechem Emen. B'emuna kol zeh v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'un tzlatu v'anak v'yisrael. Yad melachim. Malchuto beratzon kibelu alehem. Moshe v'nei Yisrael lecha anu shira b'simcha rabba ve'ameru chulam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nadar b'kodesh, nora tehilot asefele. Malchutecha rovanecha b'kei hayam lifnei Moshe, ze li anu ve'ameru, Adonai mloch leolam va'ed. ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גא ישראל.
Top of page 24, Hashkivenu is a prayer for peace. Please add extra kavanah, extra intention, that this Tisha B'Av should be the deepest point in the darkness, that peace should follow.
ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד. ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן. ברוך אדוני מציון שכן ירושלים. כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני. המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ועל כל מעשיו. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ועמד דברה קירותי, והמליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ימימו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. ברכו לאלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם בעלמה, וימימו אמן.
We rise as you're able for the Amidah. Beginning on page 28, the Amidah in the evening is said silently.
Yigadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra kirute, ve'amnich malchute b'chayechon, v'yomechon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. V'agalav yisman kamri v'mebu. Amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevarach l'olam olamei elmaya. Yitbarak ve'yishtabach ve'yipa'ar v'yitrumam ve'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitala shemei dekudsha. Brechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata dami rambelama v'mebu. Amen. Tikabal tzlotahon v'tachon dechol Yisrael kodam avahon v'ishmaya v'mebu. Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim alinu v'kol Yisrael v'mebu. Amen. Aseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom alinu v'kol Yisrael v'mebu. Amen.
You can take your seats. Echa means how is it possible? How is it possible that Jewish history should contain so much suffering and yet we continue? How is it possible that so many of our parents and grandparents, and maybe even some in the room ourselves, endured such incredible hardship and continued? How is it possible that a little nation should be besieged over and over again on all sides and yet continue to be a place of joy and flourishing? How is it possible that the mothers and the fathers and the brothers and the sisters and the spouses and the friends of those who occupy chairs in the front, those images of those who continue to be held in darkness, how is it possible that each of them get up and breathe each day and go to sleep again with a prayer that tomorrow my son, my grandson, my husband, my friend, that tomorrow they might come home? How is it possible that there is so much darkness? And how is it possible that somehow we continue to defy the darkness and continue to lean into life? Echa will be chanted from many voices around the room. Give gratitude to those who have participated in preparing a portion of this to be read. Invite you, particularly if the darkness is keeping you from being able to read, to lean into that and to close your eyes and just listen. We'll begin.
Yashva vadad ha'ir rabati am hayata kamana rabati vagoyim sarati bamidinot hayata lamas bachotivke valayla venimata alecheya en la menachem mikol avecha kol recha vagduva ayula loevim galta yuda meoni umero vavada hi yashva vagoyim lo matzah manoach kol רודפך הסיגוע בין המצרים. דרכי ציון אבלות מבלי ואמועד כל שעריך שוממים כהניך נאנחים בתינותיך נוקות והימלה היו צריך לראש אויביך שלו כי אדוני הוגה על פשעיך עולליך הלכו שבי לפני צר ויצא מציון כל הדרה היו שריך כעלים לא מצאו מרעה וילכו ולא כוח לפני רודף.
ירושלים ימי עוניה מורדיה כל מחמודיה אשר היו ממקדם בנפול עמה ביד שר ואין עוזר לה ראו הצרים שחקו על משפטיה חטאה ירושלים על כן לנידה הייתה כל מכבדיה היו כל מכבדיה הזהילוה כי ראו ערוותה גם היא נאנחה ותשוב אחור טומאתה בשוליה לא זכרה אחריתה בטרד פלאים אין מנחם לה ראה אדוני את עוני כי הגדיל אויב ידו פרסה על כל מחמדיה כי ראתה גויים באו מקדשה אשר ציווית לא יבוא בקהל לך כל עמה נאנחים מבקשים לכם נתנו מחמדיהם באוכל להשיב נפש ראה אדוני והביטה כי הייתי זוללה
לא עליכם כל עוברי דרך הביטו וראו אם יש מכאוב כמכאובי אשר עולה לי אשר הוגה אדוני ביום ארון אפו ממרום שלח אש בעצמותי וירדנה פרס רשת לרגלי השיבני אחור נתנני שוממה כל היום דאבה נזכר all פשעי בידו הסתגו עלו על צווארי הכשיל כוחי אתנני אדוני בידי לא אוכל קום סלח כל אבירי אדוני בקרבי קרא עלי מועד לשבור בחורי גד דרך אדוני לבתולת בת יהודה al ela ani v'chiyah. Inni yordamayim ki rachak mimeni menachem meshiv nafshi. Hayuvanai shomemim ki gavar oyev. Pasati yom biyadeha ein menachem la tziva Adonai liyaakov zevivav tzarav hayta Yerushalayim lenida b'neihem tzadiku Adonai kpiyu mariti shimona kol ha'amim uru machovi betulotai uvachorai alchu vashevi. Karati lama havai hema rimonihi kohanai uskenai ba'yir gavau hipikshu ochel lamo v'yashivu et nafsham ra'ei Adonai kol tzalim me'ai amar maru nechpach libi bekirbi ki maro mariti michut shikla cherev babayit kamavet sham ki nachani ein menachem li kol oivai sham ati sasu ki ata asita evita yom karata vayiyu kamoni tavo koraatam lefanecha violel lamo kaasher olalta li al pishai ki rambotan chotai v'di bidavai.
Tiferet Yisrael, v'lo zachar hadom raglav b'yom apo. Bila Adonai lo chamal, ehid kol naot Yaakov, haras bievrato. Mivitzrei bat Yehuda higia la'aretz, chilel mamlacha v'sareha. Garaha b'chariav, kol keren Yisrael, he shehi b'chor, yamina mipnei oyev, vayivar b'Yaakov kesh lehava, ach lahasaviv. Darach kachok ka'oyev, nitzav yamino katsar, v'yaharo kol machamadein, b'ohel bat Zion, shafak ha'esh chamato. Haya Adonai, koyehi bila Yisrael, bila hakor amenoteha, shichehi mivsarav, vayeret bavat Yehuda, ta'aniya ba'aniya. Vayachamos kagan sukaho, sheched moado, shikach Adonai, b'tzion moed b'shabbat, v'yinatz b'za'am apo, melech v'chohen. Sanach Adonai, mizbecho ne'er mikdasho, hizgir b'yad oyev, chomot armenoteha, kol Natnu b'veit Adonai keyom moed. Chashab Adonai lahashlit chamat batzion. Nata hakolo heshiv yado mibalal vayachal chen b'choma yachtav emlalu.
Tavu ba'eret sharecha, ibad v'shibaha berichecha. Malka v'sarecha bagayim ein Torah, gam neviecha matzu chazon me'Adonai. Yashvuhu le'eretz yidmuhu ziknei bat Zion. He'elu afar rosham hagruhu sahakim. Horidu la'aretz roshan betulot Yerushalayim. Kaluhu dema'ot einai hemar maru me'ai. Nishpach le'eretz kevedi al shever batami. Ve'ateh folel ve'yo'neg birchovot kiriyah. Li'imotam yomeru aye degan vayayin. Behitat pam kechalal berchovot ir. Behishtapech nafsham al chek imotam. Ma'avidech Ademelach habayit Yerushalayim ma'ashvela v'anachamech betulat bat Zion. Ki gadol keyam shivrech mir palach niviayich hazulach shaveh v'tafel lo giluhu al avonech lehashiv shivyoteich v'chazu lach masot shav umaduchim. Safkuhu alayich kapayim al ovre derech. Sharku v'yaniu rosham al bat Yerushalayim. Hazotair shiomru kalilat yofi masos lechol haaretz. Patzu alayich bihem kol oivayich. Sharkuhu v'yachar kushein amru bilanu. Ech zeh hayom shekivinuhu matzanu ra'inu.
Asa Adonai asher zamam Bitza imrato asher ziva mimekedem haras velo chamal Vaisamach alayich oyev herim keret saraik Saklibam el Adonai Chochmat batzion Horidi hanachal dima Yomam v'layla Al titni fugat lach Al tidom batenech Kumi Roni vaila בראש השמורות, שפכי חמים ליבך נוכח בני ארוני. שאי אליו כפייך, על נפש עולרייך, העטופים ברב בראש כל כוסות. ראה אדוני והביטה למי אולי אל תחום. אם תאכלנה נשים פריים ולעלי תפוחים, אם יחרג במקדש ארוני כהן ונביא. שכבו לארץ כוסות נער וזקן, בתולותיי ובחוריי נפלו וחרב. הרגת ביום אפיך, טבחת לא חמלת. תכרך יום מועד מגוריי מסביב, ולא חכיה. ביום אפרוני פליט ושריד, אשר טיפחתי וריביתי, אויבי הילם.
אני הגבר אני בשבר עברתו, אותי נהג ויולך, חושך ולאור, אך בי ישוב יפוך ידו כל היום. בילה ושרי ואורי, שיבר עצמותי, בנה אלי ויקף ראש ותלה, ומשככים הושיבני כמתי עולם. גדר בעדי ידי ולא אצא, ככביד נחשתי, גם כי אזעק ואשבע סתם תפילתי. גדי דרכי וגזית נתיבותי איבה. דוברי הוא לי, ארי במסתרים, דרכי סורר ויפשכני, שם אני שומם, דרך קשתו ויציבני, כמטרה לחץ. והביא וכליותי בני השפעתו. הייתי שחוק וכל עמי, נגינתם כל היום. השביעם בררים, היווני לענה. ויגרס בחצץ עיני, הפשיחני באפר, ותזנח משלום נפשי, נפשי תטובי, ואומר עבד נצחי, ותאכלתי מאדוני.
Zechor ani umrodi la'anava rosh. Zachor tizkor v'tashuach alai nafshi. Zot ashiv elibi al kein ochil. Chaste Adonai kilo tamnu, kilo chalu rachamav, chadashim labkarim rabba, rabba emunatecha, chelki Adonai amra nafshi, al kein ochilo. Tov Adonai lekovav lenefesh tidrashenu. Tov yachil v'duma v'tish litshuat Adonai. Tov lagever ki saol binu rav. Yeshev bedad v'yidom ki natal alav yiten be'afar pihu ula yesh tikva yiten lemakehu lechi yispa b'cherpa Ki lo yiznach leolam Adonai Ki imho gavaricham kirov chasto Ki lo inam ilibo v'yage b'neish Ledake tachat raglav Kol asire aretz Lehatot mishpat gever neged pnei elyon Le'avet adam berivo Adonai lo ra'ah Mizeh amar v'tehi Adonai lo tziva Mipi elyon lo tetzeh ha'ra'ot v'hatov Ma yitonen adam chai gever al chatav Nach pasadra kenu v'nach kora v'nashuva ad Adonai Nisa levavenu el kapayim el bashamayim Nachnu pashanu marinu ata lo salachta
Sakota ba'af atidrat defenu haragta lo hamalta Sakota be'anan lach me'avor tefila Zechi uma'os tesimenu bekerev ha'amim Patsu aleinu pihem kol oyeveinu Pachad v'fachad hayalanu hashed v'hashaver Poge mayim teradeni al shever bat ami Eni nigera v'lo tidmeme ein tefugo hafugo Ad yashkif yere Adonai mishamayim Eini olela lenafshi Mikol benot iri Tzot Adoni Katzipor oyevai chinam Tzametu bavor chayai Vayadu even bi Tzafu maim al roshi Amarti nigzarti קראתי שמך אדוני מבור תחתיות. קולי שמעת אל תעלם, אוזנך לרווחתי לשבתי. קרבת ביום אקראך, אמרת אל תירא. רבת אדוני, ריבי נפשי גאלת חיי. ראית אדוני, אהבתי, שופטה משפטי. ראית כל נקמתם, כל מחשבותם לי. שמעת חרפתם אדוני, כל מחשבותם עלי. שפתי קמי והגיונם עלי כל היום. שבטם וקימתם הביטה אני מנגינתם. תשיב להם גמול, אדוני כמעשה ידיהם. תיתן להם מגינת לב, תעלתך להם. תרדוף באף, ותשמידם, מתחת שמי אדוני.
זהב ישגה הכתם הטוב, תשתפך נבני קודש בראש קבוצות. בני ציון היקרים המסולאים בפז, איכה נחשבו לנבלי חרס, מעשה ידי יוצר. למתנים חרצו שד, העניקו גוריהם, בתמיל להחזר, כנים במדבר. דבק לשון יונק, אל חיכו בצמא. עוללים שלו לחם, פורס אין להם. האוכלים למעדנים, נשמו בחוצות. הימונים עלי תולה, חיבקו השבתות. ויגדל עוון בת עמי מחטאת סדום, ההפוכה כמו רגע לא חלו בידיים.
When it's my turn to read, will you find it for me in here?
מעטות נביאך, עוונות כהניך, השופטים בקרבה, דם צדיקים, נעו עברים בחוצות, נגועלו באדם, ולא יוכלו ייגעו בלבושיהם. סורו טמא, קראו למו, סורו, סורו, אל תיגעו, כי נצו גם נעו. אמרו בגויים, לא יוסיפו לגור. פניו אדוני הלקם, לא יוסיף להביטם. פני כהנים לא נשאו, וזקנים לא נענו. עודנו תכלנה עינינו, אל עזרתנו האבל. בציפייתנו ציפינו, אל גוי לא יושיע. צעדו צעדנו, מלכת ברחובותינו, קרוב קיצינו, מלאו ימינו, כי בקיצנו. קלים היו רודפינו, מנשרי שמיים. אל ההרים דלקונו, במדבר עבור לנו. רוח אפינו משיח אדוני, נלכד בשחיתותם. אשר אמרנו, בצילו נחיה בגויים. שישי ושמחי בת אדום, יושבת בארץ עוץ. גם עלייך תבר כוס, תשכרי ותתארי. גם עוונך בציון לא יוסיף להגלותך. פקד עוונך בת אדום, גילה על חטאותייך.
זכור אדוני, מה היה לנו הביטה, וראה את חרפתנו. נחלתנו פניך לזרים, בתינו לנוכרים. יתומים היינו בין אבימותינו, כאלמנות. מימינו בכסף שתינו, עצנו במחיר יבוא, על צווארנו נרדפנו. יגענו ולא הונח לנו, מצרים נתנו יד, אשור לספוע לכם. אבותינו חטאו ואינם, ואנחנו עוונותיהם סבלנו. Avadim Mashlubanu Parek Ein Miyadam Benavshenu Nafilach Menu Mipnei Arav Hamidbar Orenu Kitanu Nichmaru Mipnei Zalufat Rav Nashim Betzion Inu Bitulot Bare Yehuda Sarim Biadayim Nitlu Bnei Zikenim Lo Nedaru Bachurim Tachon Asa'u Unarim Ke'etz Shalu Zikenim Isha Shavatu Bachurim Minaginatam Shavat Masos Libeno Nepach Le'evel Mecholainu Nafla Teret Roshenu Oina Lanu Ki Chatanu Hazaya Davar Libenu Alele Chashku Einenu Al Hartzion Sheshamam Shoalim Hilchu Bo Ataranai Leolam Teshev Kisecha Ledavar Tzion Sheshamam Sholchim Cho Ataranai Leolam Teshev Kisecha Ledavar Ladar Vadar Lama Lanetzach Teshkachenu Tazvenu Le'erech Yamim Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem Ki ima'as Meyastenu Katzavta Alenu Ad Ma'od Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
We often forget that individual prayers, that books of the Tanakh were written by living, breathing human beings who saw in the world around them blessing and brokenness and were moved to translate those experiences into words to try to capture a bit of what they had seen and felt so that it might be passed down through the generations to us. Echa is a series of laments from living, breathing human beings who witnessed more than 2,000 years ago the destruction of the holy places and the sufferings of our people. We have been singing their words ever since. Living, breathing human beings continue to take in the experience of their world and to offer to us their words, however inadequate, to try to capture a piece of that experience that it not be forgotten. Over the course of these past 10 months in Israel, many have set to writing poetry, words which capture a piece of these dark times, words that they have shared with us. When this service is over, we'll be opening a live stream to Professor Delia Marks, a professor of liturgy at the Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem, who will be sharing a talk with us about the many ways in which the experience of the 7th of October have shaped the spiritual and liturgical lives of Israelis and will continue to shape the way that we practice and worship and remember going forward. Our cantor has selected 3 poems written by Israelis over this last year, 3 modern keynotes, songs of lament. We'll hear these 3 and then conclude with Elit Zion, with an ancient song.
Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei rabbah, and no one came. Many thousands called him on Shabbat morning, crying his name out loud, begging him with tears just to come. But he ceased from all his work, and no God came, and no God claimed. Only Satan celebrated uninterrupted, dancing between kibbutzim and the slaughter festival. And our correspondent goes on to report all the while sobbing, saying there is a burnt baby, and there is an abducted baby, and there is an orphaned baby, and there is a day-old baby still linked to his mother's body by the umbilical cord. He hadn't even managed to find out his name. What will be inscribed on the tiny headstone with a single date for both birth and death? This is what the kibbutz looks like after Satan's visit. Turning the broadcast back to the studio. Quiet now, they are shooting. They're still launching rockets. There is no government, and there is no mercy. Just the screaming and the pictures that will live in our minds and never leave us. The 7th of October, 2023.
Mothers by Osnat Eldar. They are gathering at night one by one. She whose daughter was abducted and her blood-stained picture doesn't allow her any peace. She whose son fell in battle. She whose children will remain forever in the little safe room in the corner of the house on the kibbutz. She who remained mute on the other end of the line, scratching the horrors into her skin. She who whispered from time to time to him, or to her, I love you, I am with you, I am here. Hello? She who wasn't able to say goodbye. She who is holding onto a fragment of a film clip showing him alive. She who woke up on Shabbat with the knowledge of death germinating within her. At night, in my darkened room, they are wandering in circles. Drooped shoulders, restless, sleep-crazed, mothers. If only they could change places with the boy or the girl ready for captivity or death. Mothers, not yet used to wandering, they come to me at night one by one. I am hugging them with compassion, with longing, absorbing into my body the feelings of guilt, the helplessness, the abyss, and caressing silently their new maternal title imposed on them.
Tikkun by Aharon Shabbatai. The horror, the terrible disaster, the shame, the fragments of stupidity, the foolishness of religion, the blindness of eyes, the violence of despair will not be repaired, neither by an officer, nor a bomb, nor an airplane, nor by any more blood. Only the heart's wisdom can repair. Only the doctor, the physician can repair. It is only the good teacher who can repair, the medic, whether Arab or Jew. The peaceful traveler can repair. The bicycle rider, the sandwich carrier, the one who walks in the street, the one who opens eyes can repair. The one who speaks compassionately can repair. The listener can repair. The educated person can repair. The one who waits and ponders can repair. The guide can repair. בדרכי הנדיבות, החיבה, הצייר יתקן, המשורר יתקנו תלמידי השלום, נגני השלום. On the path of generosity, of love, the painter can repair, the poet, the students of peace can repair, the gardeners of peace.
We're going to sing the first 3 and last 3 couplets of Elitzion. If you still have your black Siddur, it's on page 144. There's also some printouts of it on the Torah desk up here with transliteration if someone wants to grab those maybe and pass them around. So we'll do the first 3 and the last 3. Elitzion bereha כמו אישה בציריה וכיבתו לה חגורת צח על בעל נעוריה ארמון אשר נוטש בהשמצון עדריה ועל ביד מחרפיה בתוך מקדש חדריה עלי גלו משרתי אל נעמי שיר זמריה ועל דמם אשר שופך כמו מימי יוריה to the end עלי קולות מחרפיה בעת רבו פגריה ועל רגשת מגדביה בתוך משכן חצריה עלי שמך אשר חולל בפי כמי מצריה ואל תחן ישבו לך כשוב ושמע אמריה אלי ציון ועריה כמו אישה וציריה וכיבתו לה חגורת צח על בעל נעוריה. We'll finish Mariv, page 162, Kaddish Shalem. שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה קירותי והמליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה וזמן קריב ומירו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. ברכו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בלמה ומירו, אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ומירו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ומירו, אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הרצות ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה שלא צמחנו כאן. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ועומדים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, שהוא נטל שמיים וישראל. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהי אדוני אחד, ושמו
It's our tradition's assertion that darkness always gives way to light, that on Tisha B'Av, the Mashiach is destined to be born, that out of this deep, deep well of sadness, even in this deep well, there is life-giving water coming forward. We offer Kaddish in memory of those we love and whose memory and whose spirit we walk with every day. We offer a prayer whose words do not speak of death, but rather of the affirmation of the majesty of God and the ongoing promise of life. For all those for whom we mourn, for all those for whom we, as a Jewish family, as a human family, mourn, we offer Kaddish now as a testimony to the idea that love is more powerful than death, and that light, that redemption, that possibility is always just a moment away. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudsha, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran b'alma v'imru, Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. We're going to transition now, perfectly on time, I should add, to the second part of the program. We'll be opening up the live stream to Yerushalayim, to Professor Marks. We'll take just a minute to bring out the screen and to make the connection. I thank my colleague, Rabbi Mati, for making this connection. Would you like to share a couple of words of introduction? For those who need to leave, we certainly understand, but for those who can stay, I hope you will join us for this really powerful and meaningful additional piece of the program.
Rabbi Professor Dalia Marks is the professor of liturgy and midrash at Hebrew Union College, Jerusalem, so the Israeli school for Reform rabbis. She has been researching modern Israeli liturgy and has been widely recognized in Israel, even invited to the presidential palace to share the Reform perspective on the development of liturgy in modern Israel. She's also a mentor and a teacher of mine.
if this horrible 10 months that we are experiencing has taught us something, is that we should stick together, Jews from the communities of the world and Jews from Israel. So I'm very happy to be with you today. I am the Aaron D. Pankin Professor of Jewish Liturgy at Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem. I'm speaking with you from my home. It's early it's 7 o'clock in the morning here. And I am at my home, which is about 3.5 miles from where the temple was. And I am very, very interested in time, Jewish time. This is something that I try to explore. I think we all understand it, but none of us really understands how time functions, how time works. I heard that time is the most frequently used noun in the English language, and day and year are also in the top 10, but who really understands time? That's why cultures, I would say all cultures I know, create moments in time. And we are in a very, very special moment in time, which is the Tisha B'Av. Time held us together throughout the trials and tribulations of the generations. No matter where we are, no matter what is our condition, Shabbat will always be there for us. And this is why Professor Abraham Joshua Heschel called Judaism, said that Judaism built cathedrals in time. We could not always count on space. Jews were expelled, were deported, Jews had to migrate, had to leave from one place to another, but we could always voluntarily kept our time together. And this is really what keeps us together. This is what keeps you in California and me in Israel together. And these temples could not be destroyed. When I say it, I feel very... I always used to say it, and I was talking about destructions of spaces, of holy spaces, of sacred spaces, as something that belongs to the past. But as you know, this has changed. This has changed greatly lately. So, but what happens when the events really don't speak to us so much anymore? What happens when we're celebrating Pesach? We can talk about spring, we can talk about cherut, freedom, liberation, we can talk about redemption, we can talk about peoplehood. When we talk about Yom Kippur, we talk about soul searching, we talk about reflection, we talk about forgiveness, we talk about purifying our souls. But how the destruction of the temple really relates to us. And this is what we are here to sort of start to figure out. How is it really, how is it connecting to us, to our experience as contemporary Jews, as liberal Jews, I would think, that do not aspire, or at least many, I don't aspire to the rebuild of the temple and to the reinstitution of the sacrificial cult. The whole existence of the temple in Israel is not something that has to do with sweet memories of the past, but with strong messianic aspirations of some segments of the Israeli society. So how do we relate to the temple? This is what I would like to explore with you today. I prepared handouts. I don't know if you have them, but if not, maybe they could be sent to you later. So, but I will screen the text here on the board. And I hope I'll make sense, because without the coffee in the morning, it's a bit tough. So for me, Tisha B'Av, I always advocated to remember Tisha B'Av and to commemorate it, because for me, it's not just the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. It is, but it's about the ruin of everything that is sacred and holy and dear to us. And we dedicate a day in the year to remember it. Actually, as you know, this is not a day. There are 4 fasts that are related to the destruction of the temple, and we began this cycle of mourning 3 weeks ago on the 17th of Tammuz. This is the day, according to our tradition, the walls of Jerusalem were breached, and from then it was just a matter of time. It was like a pending catastrophe until the destruction of the temple on the 9th of Av. It's in a way opposite to personal mourning that begins with the most painful and horrible moment of a death of a dear one. Yeah, and we have the burial, the funeral, and then we have the Shiva, 7 days, and the 30 days, the Shloshim, and then we have the year. So the mourning's kind of becoming a bit more tolerable. When it comes to the national mourning, it's the other way around. We have the 3 weeks, and then we have the 9 days from the Rosh Chodesh, from the beginning of the month of Av, and then we have the days after the Shabbat Chazon that we commemorated 3 days ago, and then we have Tisha B'Av. And this is like a person who drowns in water until one gets to hit the bottom, and from that moment we start to go up. So right after Tisha B'Av, we will start to count the 7 weeks of consolation, Shivata de Nechamata, that will take us all the way to Rosh Hashanah. But we're not there yet. We are in Tisha B'Av, and I'm here especially because I want to share with you some segments of my book, From Time to Time, Journeys in the Jewish Calendar. And when I wrote it, I talked about Tisha B'Av as something in the past. I didn't think that we will consider Tisha B'Av as something that has to do with our lives today. The synagogues yesterday were filled with people. Many people came to read. I mean, for you it's today. For us it's in the evening, to read the scroll of Eicha and to sing lamentations together. And when we sang these traditional lamentations, almost every line someone said, "Oh my God, it's like today." We experience it. We experience Tisha B'Av in a very different way, as we live in an unprecedented situation. So I'm very happy is maybe not the word, but I feel very privileged to be with you today. So and that's what I wanted to say, that we don't need to explain too much the meaning of the destruction of the temple, the meaning of living in a situation of a catastrophe, of despair, and hoping for the change of this situation. So I prepared a few traditional texts, but then we will go very quickly to talk about contemporary texts that were composed this year. I heard that the cantor was reading some texts, but I brought you some other texts. 2 of them were written by survivors of the massacre in October 7th. So the rabbis are telling us in Tractate Ta'anit that 5 terrible events happened to our ancestors on the 17th of Tammuz and on the 5th of Av. So we're not going to read the 17th of Tammuz. That was 3 weeks ago, and that kind of lead us to the day where we are. On the 9th of Av, it was decreed that our ancestors should not enter the land. So this is the earliest event the Mishnah depicts about the destruction of the temple. After the sin of the meraglim, of the scavengers, of the spies that came to see the land of Israel and to report back, and then they say, "Oh my God, we will never be able to conquer those Nephilim, those giant people who are in the land." And the Israelites were punished with not entering the land, only their descendants. That was the first thing. The second thing, the temple was destroyed the first and the second time. So according to our traditions, of course, history can be slightly different in that case, but both temples, the temple of Shlomo, King Solomon, and the temple of the second temple that was renewed by King Herod, were destroyed on Tisha B'Av. Beitar was captured and the city was plowed up. Beitar, that talks about 2nd century, the Bar Kokhba revolt that was even more devastating than the revolt in the year of 70 when the temple was destroyed, because many Jews were killed on that Bar Kokhba revolt. He thought he can win against the empire. And Jerusalem, basically there was no Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel until 1948. And the first lines that you just read in Megillat Echa, I want to read them again with your permission, and bring up just to show you what Rashi wrote about one segment of these two verses. And we will meet them again in the Lamentations that we will read. איכה ישבה ודד העיר רבתי עם, הייתה כאלמנה רבתי בגויים, שרתי במדינות הייתה למס, בכה תבכה בלילה ודמעתה על יחיה, אין לה מנחם מכל אוהביה, כל רעיה בגדו בה, היו לה לאויבים. Alas, lonely sits the city, once great with people, she was great among nations, it became like a widow. The princess among states, it became a thrall. Bitterly she weeps in the night, her cheek wet with tears. There is none to comfort her. All her friends, all her allies have betrayed her. They have become her foes. So Rashi says about Balayla. He's asking, why Balayla? What's so special about Balayla? Why do we emphasize the fact that she cries in the night? And he says the following. He gives three explanations. All of them are based on the Midrash. For the temple was burned at night. Another explanation, the Acher, in the night, is that the night of weeping of the spies on the 9th of Av caused it to them to happen to them. Another explanation, the Acher, and this is what I wanted to share with you, in the night is that whoever weeps in the night, shekol haboche balayla, the one who hears his voice weeps along with him or her, with them. So weeping in the night, in the dead of night, when it's quiet, when it's dark, when people are silent, if you hear a weep, that evokes empathy, that evokes a response, and that's the feeling I think we are feeling these days, that we do feel as if we are in a very, very long night that we are hoping to wake up from. I want to share with you a few contemporary lamentations that were written in the last month or two. One of them is written by my friend. Her name is Nurit Hirschfeld-Skupinski, and we studied together at the Hebrew University, 2.5 miles from where I'm sitting right now. She was born in Kibbutz Nachal Oz, and then she left to Jerusalem, but later she came back with her husband and 3 children to Kibbutz Nachal Oz. This is one of the kibbutzim that were affected by the massacre of October 7th. And she was sitting in the mamad, in the safety room, for 14 hours with her family, holding the knob of the door, with the dog, who, interestingly enough, did not bark, until the soldiers came and rescued them with basically the shirt on their backs. They could not take anything, and from that moment, they move from one place to another. They were in Kiryat Tivon. Now they move between apartments in Modi'in. And Nurit explained or shared her feelings about what happened with a lamentation. And this is something that I find interesting, that Jews, even secular Jews, I think Nurit would define herself as a secular Jew. She expressed her feelings, she expressed her terrible feelings about what happened through a kina, a lamentation. But before we go to this lamentation, I forgot. You see, that's what happened when you don't drink coffee in the morning. I wanted to share with you a few words about Tisha B'Av and us throughout the ages, throughout the modernity. Maybe some of you know that in the classical reform movement in the 19th century, especially in the United States, many reform leaders felt that there is no reason to commemorate Tisha B'Av. However, at least one rabbi, there were more than one rabbi, but one rabbi who created his own Siddur, Olat Tamid, Rabbi David Einhorn, said that we should commemorate Tisha B'Av. In fact, we should celebrate Tisha B'Av because Tisha B'Av symbolizes the moment that we ceased from being a cultic nation that is attached to a specific place, and we became a nation of prophets. And that's what he said in his 9th of Av sermon. I'm not sure which year it was, but this is a short segment of his sermon. No, we must not weep over the ruins of Jerusalem. From Beyom Shenechrav Bet HaMikdash Nolad HaMashiach. The Messiah was born in these very ruins. Israel lost the structure of woods and stone so that he, Israel, might win more souls for God. It's lost its homeland so that it might conquer the world. To be sure, its sons, well, that's how they spoke, sons, I'm sure daughters do, despaired when they saw the temple go down in flames. But God sees further than human. God recognized in the fallen temple merely the foundation and the cornerstone for the house of prayer for all people. Maybe this is why in many Reformed congregations we call the synagogue, we call Beit HaKnesset temple, because that's the temple that we have. I think throughout the years, Reform movement sort of shifted and changed, and its understanding of Tisha B'Av. I remember I was in a summer camp in Wisconsin, and we did commemorate Tisha B'Av, not asking for the rebuild of the temple, but dwelling for a second on the sense of loss and destruction. In the Zionist movement, again, many people felt, first of all, many of them were secular, and they said, why do we need to commemorate Tisha B'Av? Why do we need to mourn on this day? We are back in our land. We are building our home. This is not a temple, but that's a temple of Adam, Mikdash Adam. That's a temple of human being. We build a kibbutzim. We are in a pioneeric movement. Why do we need to remember Tisha B'Av? And I want to bring to you something that Bell Katzenelson wrote. I want to bring it to you because of three reasons. One of them is, the first is that it's very poignant and very important to all of us, not only in the land of Israel, in the state of Israel, and not only regarding Tisha B'Av. And second, because he was a great thinker of the labor movement, of the Zionist movement. And third, actually four reasons. The third, his yahrzeit was yesterday. He passed away exactly 80 years ago in August 12th. And the fourth reason is that his Hebrew name, his not Hebrew name, I mean, the name everybody called him was Berl, but the name he chose for himself was Be'eri. And Kibbutz Be'eri, one of the kibbutzim that were severely affected by the massacre, is called after him. And he found out that one youth movement, Machanot HaOlim, is planning a big trip on Tisha B'Av, and he was shocked. He said, maybe you don't need to mourn on this day, maybe you don't need to fast on this day, but having a big field trip, merriment and happiness and songs and song leaders and what have you, on Tisha B'Av, that's very, that's inappropriate. And he says the following. Renewing and creative generation does not throw the cultural heritage of ages into the dustbin. It examines and scrutinizes, accepts and rejects. At times, it may keep and add to an accepted tradition. At times, it delves into mounds of cast-off junk, recovers forgotten items, removes the rust, resuscitates an old tradition that has the power to stimulate the spirit of the generation of renewal. And I think this is something that we feel today, that we sometimes feel that we have to look into our culture, into our heritage, to find language. And this is what we will see when we get to the texts that were written after October 7th. And this is, of course, the response to the 9th of Av this year. And I think, again, this year, unlike in the past, we don't need to think very deeply what is the meaning of Tisha B'Av and how should we commemorate it, because it's really, how can I say, it's really in our face. So this is what Nurit Skupinski writes. Maybe I should read in Hebrew so you hear the beautiful musical aspects of it, and then we can read it in English. איכה ישבה בדד ניר עוז רבתי דם, שדרות הייתה כאלמנה, קריה הלומה, ומי נאמנה? איכה ישבה בדד, בממד, משפחה ועוד אחת, ועוד ועוד אחת. איכה ישבו בדד תצפיתניות רבתי עין, ולא הייתה הקשבה, וישועה אין. איכה ישבו בדד צעירות וצעירים, במסתורי שוחות ושיחים, פסקו ריקודיהם, ומי יחלצם? איכה ישבו בדד חטופות וחטופים, ועדיין יושבים, 115 גברים, נשים, קשישים וילדים, בכו בוכים בלילה, דמעות על לחייהם, ואין מנחם. So you can really see the tones that she's using is really from the Megillat Eicha, the book of lamentation. How she sat alone, Nir Oz full of blood. Sderot was like a widow, a city stunned, and who is faithful to her? Oh, how they sat alone in the shelter room, one family and another and another and another one. Oh, how they sat alone, the many-eyed women at this observation post. It refers to the soldier women who warned against the Hamas building up on the border, and nobody was there to listen to them. And there was no listening and deliverance, none. Oh, how they sat alone, young women and young men, hiding in pits and shrubs, their dancing halted, and who will rescue them? Oh, how they sat alone, captive women and captive men, and sitting there still, 150 men, women, elders, and children. Crying they are, crying in the night, tears on their cheeks, and there is no one who comforts. That's the poem of Nurit Skupinski. The second poet was written by a teacher and educator called Liora Elon, and she survived the massacre from Kfar Aza. That's one of the 3 kibbutzim that were affected in the most gruesome way. When Liora came back to see her home, she saw that it was completely destroyed. Her many books, she had like many shelves of books. She is a very, very learned woman. The books were burned or wet because of the putting off the fire efforts. But one book stood relatively intact. And that's a book called Dirshuni. It's a book that contains midrashim, compilations of work by women, modern midrash, modern like rabbinic sayings that were composed by women, edited by Tamar Biala. And now Tamar Biala is editing the 3rd volume, and both these poems will be included in it. Liora Elon also was hiding a dead day in her safety room, but her son, who was the head of the how can I say, the guarding unit of the kibbutz, went out immediately and fought the terrorists of Hamas, and he perished. He was killed there, and in his last breath, he called the next kibbutz Sad, and told his colleague there, told him, you have to close the gate of the kibbutz and have everyone who has a gun standing on the gader, on the fence. And indeed, in kibbutz Sad, nobody was killed. I want to read to you the first and the last verses of Kina le'eretz ahuva, Lamentation for a Beloved Land, by Liora Elon from kibbutz Kfar Aza. איכה הפכו משכנותייך לאיי חורבות, אנשייך לגולים בארצם. הוי, ארץ נבגדת, בגדו בך בנייך, שמו מאווייהם בראש מעיינם, חרצו גורלך במו לשונם, עזבוך בליבם, טועים בדרכם. Oh, how your dwellings have been turned into ruins. Your people became exiles in their own land. O betrayed land, your son betrayed you. They put their desires before all else. They sealed your fate with their very tongue. They abandoned you in their hearts, lost in their ways. And it continues. Of course, when you get the handouts, you can read the entire text. And then she says, we will yet return and rebuild you, the soil of our homeland. We will yet return and sing in your fields a joyous song. Your sons will yet return to love and forgive. Your daughters will yet return to complete the thankful song for neighbors and fellows who have become our enemies, when our eyes will see peace between us. And she concludes, and we will cast prayer together for borders of tranquility, for becoming good neighbors, for leaders with humility, that we will respect each other, brothers and sisters, when the land, will sprout again, O land, grain and wheat. And I want to move to the last text that I brought you, and this text I also want to play the music to you. I don't know, Rabbi Mati, if we have time for questions or how does it work, but I'm happy to be here with you. And after Kinat Berry, I want to read to you a kavanah, a meditation for consolation for the day after Tisha B'Av. So Yagiel Harush is a Moroccan young poet and musician. And like everyone else, he was deeply affected, deeply moved, and deeply shocked by the October 7th events. And since it was just after Shmini Atzeret, the day that we pray for rain, he had in his head the music, the Moroccan music that is used for the prayer of rain, which is in fact a tune that is used in the Moroccan communities for Tisha B'Av, that is for today. And he told me when I spoke with him, he said that he went to make his children spaghetti for lunch, and when the spaghetti was on fire, he went and wrote this song. But it took him some time until he really published it. He felt that it may be too strong or too devastating. So this is the text. I will read to you the first two lines, and then two verses, and then we can hear the song, and you will see the subtitles with the lyrics in both languages. איכה בארי הפכה לקברי, ויום מאורי הפך שחורי, והושחת כל פרי ונהפך שירי, איני נובעה מים מעומק שירי. So here is a translation by Joseph Goldman and Joe Fleet, and I take it from the Open Siddur project. I don't know if you know this project. This is a very, very interesting, beautiful project that really takes into, that is committed to bring to the larger public, to the public domain, old and new prayers. And if you wrote a prayer, I'm sure they will be happy to publish it. So here's the translation from the Open Siddur project. Eicha, alas, my well has turned into my grave. My well, be'eri, the word be'eri comes from the word be'er, well, and be'eri means my well. And it's also a word that has a strong Kabbalistic meaning, right? The Be'er is also a name of a reference to the Shekhinah, to the dwelling of God among us. So he says, alas, my well has turned into my grave, and the day of light has become my darkness, and all fruit has been destroyed, and my singing overturned. My eyes pour forth water from the depth of my brokenness. And then he says, איכה תורה ערוכה וסדורה, וכל פארה לא עמד לעזרה, וביום הדרה הושחת תאורי, איני נובעה מים מעומק שברי. איכה תורה, so orderly and arranged, so full of splendor, did not come to our aid. And on the day of her exalting, right, in Israel it was Simchat Torah, the day of the rejoicing of the Torah, I've lost my standing, my eyes pour forth water from the depth of my brokenness. So I will play you the song, and then if you are interested, if you have time, I'm happy to get to hear your questions, and we'll conclude with a meditation. I will just tell you, I will share with you that since the massacre and since October 7th, there is a unbelievable, amazing creativity of music, of text, of liturgy. I personally collected more than 350 prayers that were composed. Some of them are very artistic, some of them are very simple, some of them are but all of them are so very meaningful. And my collection, my archive is in the National Library now for the use of everyone. So let me play to you Kinat Be'eri by Yagel Harush. I will start it a little. Wait a second. Can you hear it?
איכה ברי הפכה לקברי ויום מאורי הפך שחורי והושחת כל פרי ונהפך שירי אני נובע מים מעומק שברי איכה תורה ערוכה וסדורה וכל פארה לא עמד לעזרה וביום הדרה הושחת תארי אני נובע מים מעומק שברי איכה ישראל ביום כרוען וחיים שואל ומהומה קיבל זקן ועולל בדם מתגולל וחגו חילל אויב אכזרי אני נובע מים מעומק שברי איכה אימהות וילדות ונערות השתימו לחוד כביבי פרעות ונפרצו גדרות צאן ישרות ופסקו מחולות ונגינות משוררים אני נובע מים בעומק שברי והעיר נרי, ובעין רחמך תרפא שברי, ועדי הנובעת תשקה בארי, ועדי הנובעת תשקה
Yes, so that was Yagel Harush, and the prayer, the tune is the tune for prayer for rain, which is taken from the Tisha B'Av text, and you can see that he concludes his text like it is the custom of the Paitanim, of the poem writers throughout the ages, even if they write about things that are very painful, about really difficult, tragic experiences, catastrophes, they tend to end with words of consolation. And here he says, ובאין רחמך תרפא שברי, ועיני הנובעת תשקה בארי. And from the well springs of your mercy, heal my brokenness, and my eyes that pours forth will water be'eri. Yeah, he's playing on the be'er, which is a well, and my eyes that are crying, and may my tears will eventually cause be'eri to fill with living water. So yes, this is a time that we ask for consolation, for nechama, to all those who are innocent in this terrible time, and we pray for the return of the captives. You see, I carry with me, like many Israelis, the yellow pin of bringing them home. I hope that the war will be over and that there will be peace. But apart from the national understanding of Tisha B'Av also, and this is what I would like to conclude, at least my part, Tisha B'Av is also a day that has to do with personal loss and personal ruins or destructions in our lives and hope. And we allow ourselves to dwell in this very painful moment for a while, knowing that Tisha B'Av will also over and we will move to the next phase, which is the 7 weeks of consolation, acknowledging the circular nature of our lives. And this is something that I am very interested in, not only theoretically, but this year also in a very present way. And I would like to read to you a meditation that I wrote in my book, from time to time, Journeys in the Jewish Calendar. Each chapter deals with a month in the Jewish year, and in each chapter you have a kavanah, meditation for the month, a song of the month, a prayer for the month, and then short essays. We call them iyunim because we couldn't find a better word. It's essay sounds very academic, so this is not an academic book. Each chapter contains iyunim about the month, and I think the book was really received a very warm welcome in the United States. It was written in Hebrew and then translated to German and Spanish, and now to English. The CCAR who published this book created also a beautiful study guide that is meant for individuals, for families, for communities, and you can download it for free in the CCAR website. You can see the time.ccrpress.org. And you can download it and use it, and that's my letter to the Jewish people, acknowledging the fact that we disagree on so many things, especially now, I think, and especially where I come from. This is very painful how we disagree on so many things, but there's one thing we don't disagree upon, and that's not obvious to me, and that's time. No matter what your practice, Shabbat will always, as I said at the beginning, Shabbat will always be there. So you can celebrate Shabbat as you wish, in the synagogue or within the family or with friends, on the beach or even going to a mall or doing whatever you do, but Shabbat is special, and we all keep the days that are meaningful to us in some way. And as long as we are in the same point in the calendar and we have the same time frame, we are together. So I acknowledge the fact that especially outside Israel, but also in Israel, we have two calendars. One is the Jewish calendar, Luach HaIvri, and one is the civil calendar. And if you go in the streets in Jerusalem and ask people what is the date, they will probably know the civil calendar, not the Jewish one, but we tick according to both. So before I read the Kavanah, I just want to say, is there a question or remark or something to add? If it's possible, I'm not sure about the technology.
So we can definitely do a question or two.
I think we're muted, so she cannot hear you.
Oh, maybe can you hear us, Ms. Marks?
No.
No, I thought I had her unmuted. No, we are unmuted.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
So we can take a couple of questions. The hour is getting late. We'll take a couple of questions.
I will
I will
just
just preface this by saying I counted 14 clergy here tonight. So as a reminder to them and everybody else.
Questions include a question mark
and
are directed to the speaker for more information rather than an opportunity to share of yourself. So if there are questions that end with a question mark to Professor Marks, we would love to invite anybody to ask them. Professor Marks, again, the title of your book, please, and where we can find it.
The title of the book is From Time to Time, Journeys in the Jewish Calendar. You can find it like everything else these days in Amazon, but also on the CCAR press. The CCR are very generous when a community wants to buy in bulk. I know of communities who use it for B mitzvah groups or for confirmation classes or for introduction to Judaism, late bat mitzvah groups, study sessions, whatever. It is a tool that I created for you, as individuals, as families, as communities, and I'm happy to be part of this. If you feel the need, that's my idea. I just didn't just write the book. The book in and of itself is an object, like any book, but I think I try to create through this book some sort of movement in our understanding, at least in Israel. I think you in North America understands it a little bit better than us. That Judaism is very wide and very smart. She's an old lady, and there are many ways to celebrate our Jewishness. So I try to bring traditions from old and contemporary traditions, and texts from the West, Ashkenazic texts, but also texts from the East, from all denominations. There are some conservative rabbis and Reform rabbis, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox. Doesn't mean that anything goes. I did not include sexist voices, chauvinist voices, nationalist voices, racist voices. I didn't, but I really try to be as comprehensive as possible. And another thing that was very important for me is to include women voices, the female voice within our Jewishness, that, as you know, are not often heard in classical writings of Judaism, but women were there. There were 50%, some say 51% of the Jewish population, and I wanted to hear women voices, and I gave it a lot of space. So this is my book, From Time to Time. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on the CCR press, and of course you can buy in bulk. And I'm happy to come back to study with you if it's
we love
if
having
it's
you
needed.
with us. Can you paint for us a little bit? You are ahead in time. Can you paint for us a little bit what Tisha B'Av has felt like so far in Jerusalem? What does the air feel like?
And so I didn't hear very well.
What is Tisha B'Av feeling like in Yerushalayim right now? You are ahead of us in time. What is this holiday feeling like right now for you and on the streets in the city?
the situation. Well, you know, we are very we're in an unprecedented situation for a long time, but every time there's a new angle to it. So for 4 years, you know, first we had COVID, and then we had the judicial upheaval, and now the massacre and the war, and now we have all these threats from Iran and the Hezbollah, and we hope that the leaders of the world will have wisdom and courage not to take us into a terrible war. I think people are very grateful to the United States and to other friends, especially to the United States, that stand by our side at this very, very difficult moment. And I hope that this is just a moment in time, you know, that we could talk about. It doesn't feel like a moment in time right now, honestly speaking. You know, raising children in this country and everything that happens, that you, of course, can read. You know what happens. But I hope that very, very soon, God willing, we will be able to talk about all of this in past tense. That the hostages will come back, the war will be over, and peace and tranquility will be restored. There's so much healing and rebuilding to do, unprecedented. As we speak, there are thousands and thousands of people who are homeless in their own countries, people from the south who cannot return to their kibbutzim or to their moshavim, and people from the north who cannot go back to Kiryat Shmona and the settlements around it. We in Jerusalem are relatively okay, but we're trying to do everything we can to help, to volunteer, to ease the difficulty for those who are affected in a more direct way.
Any other questions before we say Laila Tov?
Thank you, Rabbi. It was very clear that you have such ruach in what you do, and I'm interested to see if we could have any more questions. We probably don't have it now, but how can we get a hold of you later on, like to understand more about what you do in the community in Jerusalem?
The question was how to get hold of
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very easy to find. I have a website. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not a big social media person, but I can be found. I'm on HUC faculty. I can write you my email. And that's dmarks@huc.edu. So I'm very easy to find. Yeah. All right, so I understand that we have to conclude very soon. So I just want to conclude with this kavanah that I was talking about, kavanah meditation for Av. And it goes, I mean, I wrote it, of course, before October 7th, and now everything takes another meaning. The CCR just told me that they ran out of books. They have to do a reprint, and I beg from them to enter at least 2 paragraphs acknowledging what happened, because otherwise this book will be out of sync. Yeah, we have to acknowledge what happened, and they agreed. So we're gonna we're not gonna change the paginations. You know, publishers don't like it, but we're gonna add some notes about this year what happened. So kavanah meditation for Av. For just a moment, I will stop to consider the mountains of memories, the false hopes, the insults seared deep, the moments of lost holiness. This time, I won't rush. I will stop. Even if just for a moment, I will stop at the narrow place until another feeling sprouts. And it will sprout within me without delay. And I know that everything is possible. And I will know that everything is possible. And I will know that everything is possible. So I hope that everything is possible, and that we will, I hope to meet with you again at a certain point, and may it be in better times, times of peace, times of consolation for us here in Israel and for you in North America. I know that times are not easy for you too. My son studies on the other coast. He's in NYU doing master's degree. And I am in very close touch with my American colleagues and friends, and I know how hard it is for in both sides of the ocean. So may we hear words of consolation, bsorot tovot, good news, and all the best to you and yours from Jerusalem.
We came together tonight as 7 communities from across Orange County to look towards each other, to give comfort and strength to each other, to mourn and to remember, and to sing and to learn together. It is customary to leave the space of Echa in quiet and wish to everybody that we go in peace.